Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach, and I'm in San Diego, California.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching or both. We often mention Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks on this podcast. If you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can find out more about them online by searching for Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks on your web browser or here on YouTube if you're watching us there. Or you can find out more about them at their website, abraham-hicks.com. Each week, we start our discussion from a different jumping off point. And this week, I had the jumping off point idea, but it came out of something that you mentioned when we were in friend time before the show, talking about our lives and all that. And because you said something good happened to you, and you said, "Yeah, I feel really lucky." And we started talking about the concept of luck. And I thought when we were thinking about what to talk about today, I was like, oh, I think luck has an important place in the conversation around the law of attraction and the art of allowing, because a lot of people feel um, that there is no, whether they think it out in these terms or not, they don't believe in the law of attraction, or they haven't heard of it, or they think it's all woo woo hocus pocus and it's all baloney, and that really the universe is just an indifferent universe that doesn't care what your vibration is or anything else, and just random stuff happens to you all the time, and that's how life works. um, so on the one aspect, people will talk about luck in that way, like, oh, I had bad luck, or oh, I got really lucky, like they had no role in it, just came from out of nowhere, and something horrible or great happened to them, and it's the result of luck, meaning it's the result of this indifferent universe that doesn't respond to anything about us and just is shooting random crap at us all the time. But the other thing is, the other aspect of it that's interesting is, like, sometimes this is those same people, and I would say I was like this before I learned about the law of attraction, is that you tell people and you tell yourself that you don't, you believe the universe is just this indifferent thing that doesn't react to you at all. But then suddenly you believe in, like, curses and like lucky streaks and like my lucky shirt or whatever, and it's like,
That's
what?
that hope, right? We want to hope, believe there's like some, like, oh, it's
You do have
possible,
some influence,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Like if I wear
Or
my lucky
that,
shirt,
or even that something is rooting for us, like
yeah,
somehow that there is some mystical, magical
yeah.
something or other that's out there that's gonna help us. This is, and that I had a lucky rabbit's foot as a kid.
Mm.
And I think maybe even in my 20s I might have had one. I did have one. I must have bought it for me, but I remember my cat Mocha. I was on the phone with a friend, and I had it, and then I threw it, and she fetched it and
Mm.
brought it back to me. And I didn't even know she did that until like 30 minutes went by, and I'm like, oh my God, my cat is playing fetch with, I'm playing fetch with my cat. She's retrieving this thing like that. That's
I've always
awesome.
thought, by the way, that just as an aside, that the fact that rabbits' feet were considered lucky for humans, was really unlucky for rabbits.
Yes. Sorry, Bunny. um,
But yeah, I mean, I think and we think about like lottery winners and things like that, like, oh, they just got lucky, and I mean, again, if somebody firmly believes that, I'm not going to try to talk them out of it, really. But I mean, what I've come to understand with the law of attraction is, like, we heavily influence what people consider to be our luck, with our vibration and with our feelings and with our thoughts that fuel our feelings. And it's like, if we're in a good feeling place and we're vibrating at this high vibration, like, we're going to be a lot more lucky, what people consider lucky, than if we have a low vibration and we're cranky and we're thinking negative thoughts and making ourselves feel lousy all the time. I mean, I think that's the thing, is like, I feel like there's a lot of anecdotes, at least in the American culture right now, about Murphy's Law, and, like, things like that. Like, and I think back to the film The Secret, which was my first exposure to the law of attraction, and they have that great sequence where the lady's wakes up in the morning and stubs her toe, and then there's no toothpaste in the tube. You know, she forgot to buy toothpaste, and
She had
you know,
built momentum.
yeah. But
Basically,
like
that was
people would,
happening with that.
right, and like the film is created that sequence as an example to show you like how her vibration starts off negative when she first wakes up, and then she just sort of keeps contributing to it and feeding it. But her perception, because in the story she doesn't understand about the law of attraction yet, she's
Right.
just thinking it's like bad luck,
Yeah.
like, oh, of course I got bad luck or whatever, and she doesn't
Or
see that she's
something,
creating that,
right? Or something I was, oh, this always happens to me.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I was like, ooh.
It's funny because one place I have to kind of keep my mouth shut most of the time in playing Dungeons and Dragons, because when you play Dungeons and
Mm.
Dragons, not to go into the rules at all because they're like a ton of them and they're very complicated, a lot of them. But one thing is, a lot of things are determined by dice rolls, random dice rolls. Like you roll these dice and you have to deal with whatever number came up. And there are people that, and I feel like I have an advantage in Dungeons and Dragons because I understand about the art of allowing, and so I try every time I roll dice to just sort of be like, I'm feeling good and I'm allowing high dice rolls.
Yeah.
And but it's also, but one thing that happens, so there's players of Dungeons and Dragons who will literally start a game, and in fact, one of the games I joined recently, there's somebody who says this is like, oh, I roll bad on the dice all the time,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm just like, as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh my
Do
god,
you
like
cringe? Do you
you have
cringe?
literally set up
Yeah.
like
Uh,
hundreds of future bad dice rolls in D and
so
D.
that right there would be an affirmation of what we
Yeah.
don't want.
Right. Yeah. 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 Because what's really happening there is like they want to roll well, and in key situations they don't, and then they remember that, and then
Once.
right,
There's things that have
it can
happened to
be,
me
yeah, it can start with
once,
once.
and then I remember that, and then it's there the next time I need to do that particular thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, but that, and it's like, no, that's,
Yeah.
and it's only my attention to something
Yeah.
that brings it about.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking thoughts that feel good about something, I'm going to attract something good. If I'm thinking thoughts of what I don't want, I'm going to bring that too.
Yeah. And in fact, there is a literally, not, I mean, if you're okay getting this nerdy, you can watch the most shining example of this in Dungeons and Dragons. Again, not to go into the nitty gritty of the rules, but one of the dice we roll the most often is called the 20-sided die. So it rolls a number anywhere between 1 and 20, and highest is usually better. So the worst roll you can have is a 1, and the best roll you can have is a 20. And usually in the game, special good things happen if you roll a 20, and special bad things happen if you roll a 1. And there's an actor named Will Wheaton who played uh, this character called Wesley Crusher on Star Trek: The Next Generation in the 80s and 90s. And he is a big Dungeons and Dragons enthusiast. And if you go on YouTube and search Will Wheaton dice curse, this video will come up, and he says that, like, he says that all the time, that he's cursed. He jokes that there was like,
Oh,
he like his family disturbed an ancient burial ground
oh
back
my
generations or
gosh.
something.
Yeah,
It's just like,
yeah.
and you will literally see him like over, like it's a highlight, so it's probably 6 minutes long or whatever, but like you literally see him over 3 hours just roll, and the other players in the game are just like stunned because he just keeps rolling once, at a seemingly improbable frequency, like
So this is a great example, and thanks for bringing this up. He is an awesome allower
he is, that's the
because he
thing.
is attracting what
Yes.
he's talking about. He's attracting what
Yeah.
he says he's going to get.
Yeah.
Look how powerful he is.
Yeah. Well, and now he's done a thing where like he's gotten other people not to believe it about themselves, but they believe in his dice
So
curse.
they're even now giving him their
Exactly.
energy. So
It's just
he's
a
literally taken their energy by these people are offering it to him now. And so he's got a
yeah.
ton of support.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's real. Like as soon as I heard about that, because I didn't know. I'm a fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and of course, there's a lot of nerdy overlap between fans of that, fans of Dungeons and Dragons. But I didn't know that he was an avid Dungeons and Dragons player, and he played, in shows where they film it. And so I was like, I say it just came up in one of my things on YouTube because I watched D&D videos. It was like the Will Wheaton dice curse, and I was like, the Will Wheaton dice curse. What the hell is that?
Well, and going back to me saying, yeah, and I feel really lucky that I have this woman in my life now who has been, a great supporter of my business and work life and everything. And she's shared a ton of her knowledge and wisdom with me. And now that, and when you said luck, huh? And you like gave me some shit about it, which you never do on this show or ever in
Very
our
rare.
friendship,
Very rare.
which surprised me. Anyways, uh, um, I got to thinking, it's like, yeah, I absolutely attracted this type of person into my life. I absolutely wanted someone with the essence of her knowledge and wisdom
Mm,
supporting me. And yeah, I allowed her in.
yeah.
And I'm thankful for all the things that occurred that brought that about.
Yeah.
So it was just, kind of like one of those things, and we talk about that a lot here, how we just say things and we don't
Mm,
even really think about what we're actually saying. Like I say things and it like luck, and I think
yeah.
about that. But when we dig a little deeper, you're absolutely right. It's my attention too.
Yeah.
It's oh, I put that in my vortex.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was a vibrational match to it. That's what I became,
Yeah.
a vibrational match to what I wanted.
Yeah.
That feels
Yeah.
really
Like
good.
if you can really like
Mm.
if you were somebody who had that sort of, again, I mean, a fantastic point about how Will Wheaton is he thinks he's the worst manifester, and he's actually one of the most powerful ones around. I mean,
Yes.
he's literally doing something with little plastic dice that no one else on the planet is doing, and he thinks it's like he's lacking power, and what he's actually demonstrating is that he is filled with tremendous power. you know?
Which, by the way, there's more than him doing it all around the world.
Well, and that
And
everyone
we're
that's
all doing it all
right,
the time.
right.
We're all
Is
doing it all the time.
every single one of us has that power within us if we
Yeah.
choose to use it. It's just like it's just sort of how
Oh,
you use it.
choose? We
Yeah,
do. Like, think about it.
yeah.
I'm going to throw us, both of us, under the bus. We both do it in our dating lives. Hello,
Oh
you
hell
know?
yeah,
And I know everyone listening can think of a certain circumstance where they're doing it that, so they're all powerful. We all are.
yeah,
And so, but it really is about softening the resistance, like
yeah.
noticing where the resistance is and then softening it.
That's a really good point too, because if you've been building momentum like Will Wheaton, like it's great to realize that's what you're doing. Like if you watch The Secret, or you listen to us, or listen to an Abraham, YouTube video, it'd be great to have the light bulb go on, like, oh my gosh, like I got to turn that around. The challenge is going to be twofold. Number one, you've been putting bad stuff in your vortex for a long time with that mentality.
No, you're putting
No?
good stuff in your vortex.
Oh, that's right, because of
We
you need to explain that. You need to explain that.
we
This is another
only
good point.
put only positive requests go into our vortex.
That's right. Yeah. So
So
anytime we experience a negative outcome, what that really is, if I'm understanding it correctly, is it's the it's like the opposite of what our higher self wants, and we've just blocked. It's really blocking what we want, not receiving something we don't want. Does that make sense?
you've lost me. So when we're having contrasting situation, um like literally I did this the other night. It was Friday night, and I'm like heading somewhere to eat dinner, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get on the dating apps. I literally pull over and start swiping through the dating apps and liking, disliking, or don't say what I want. I could feel all of this negative emotion
Mm,
well up in me. And I'm like, what are you doing, Steph? That feels awful. Get
yeah.
off. And
Yeah.
so I turn them off. and laughed at myself because I intentionally did that. Went somewhere wanting something, not finding it there, and feeling horrible and just being like, yeah, that's not where you're going to find what you want. But when you said, how do we know? Because we feel it. That
Yeah.
negative emotion is letting us know. Like it let me know in that moment that what was it letting me know? It was letting me know that I was focused on something that I don't want, because my head was going,
Yeah.
oh, that guy's not attractive. Oh, this guy won't respond. Oh, whatever, fill in the blank. Oh, there's nobody on here that I find attractive, blah, 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 blah. And I'm focused on what I don't want. And that's why that negative, because I'll tell you why, my inner being knows I'm with my guy. My inner being knows that I'm happy. My inner being knows it's done. And whenever I deviate from any of those thoughts, I feel negative emotion every time. And when I think about, oh yeah, it's already done, that feels really good. That means that's an aligned thought.
I guess that's what I was trying to say. I guess it's all kind of how you think and talk about it, but and I'm massive apologies to Will Wheaton, who's a wonderful guy and a great actor. I didn't expect to carry this thing this far, but I guess what I'm saying is like what's really happening there when Will Wheaton says, I'm cursed on the dice. What he's demonstrating there is that he wants to roll high,
Mm-hmm.
and B, his inner being knows that he can roll high.
Yep.
But
And has, and has,
and has, yeah,
and
exactly.
has rolled high because it's done.
Right. But so what is actually manifesting when he keeps rolling a one is not so much that he's attracting ones, is that he's delaying the 20s that are in his vortex.
He's actually doing both. He
Yeah.
is, he's manifesting what he says, what he's focused on.
Right. Yeah.
He's manifesting what he's focused on. So he's very powerful,
Yeah.
even though it's not what he wants, but he's talking about it like it's going to happen. And so he's attracting that.
Right.
And two, every time he rolls and he doesn't get what he wants, what he
Yeah.
really wants, he's put in his vortex another time where he's won a 20, or where he's rolled a 20.
Right.
So,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like every
yeah,
time he rolls a one, he puts a 20 in his vortex.
exactly.
And it's funny too because I feel like as we keep this is really I'm glad we talked about this. It's really fascinating, like, because we think in language, right? And like we don't realize a lot of times that how we talk and how we think is like
Oh
so
my
important
gosh, I know.
because we're creating our own vibration with the
It's
words
huge.
and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I just totally lost my train of thought there, but it was really great, whatever it was.
Well, how we
Just trust that it
talk,
was a really awesome
well,
point I
how
had.
we talk, like I said, I was really lucky.
Yeah,
Where really what had happened was I had attracted
yeah.
and became a match to what I had wanted.
What I was going to say earlier is if you could if I can replace, oh, I'm so lucky, or that was so lucky, parentheses for me,
Yeah.
with I'm such an awesome allower.
Yes. Yes.
Because what that does is that tells the truth about the scenario, which is I had a role in it. I'm not the power that creates worlds, as Abraham says. I'm not the person or the entity that created the sun, the moon,
And
the
I
stars.
didn't make it happen.
Right,
I
right.
allowed it to
Allowed it. I
happen.
think that's just such an important. That was the thing I learned the most from Abraham early on that I didn't really. It's probably in The Secret to a degree, but like Abraham really focuses on that. That it's the way to work best with the law of attraction is not to like get into the law of attraction and wrangle it. It's
Yeah.
the process of like, look, the universe is doing 99.9% of the work for you. All you got to do is let it happen. And that does sound very counter to most of our culture.
Yeah, because we're told we have to make it happen. Look
Yeah.
at the Nike, just do it.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
to-do list.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I have
So
this
we should
one.
make t-shirts that say just allow it.
So it's so funny because I use that phrase a lot. Oh my God, you're such an awesome allower. Or
Yeah.
I've said I'm such an awesome allower. And people look at me like, what are you talking about? Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand that. But you explained it
Yeah.
accurately. And so here's something that comes up in my phone every once in a while, and I love it because I've heard an Abraham. So It's done, it's done, it's done, it's done, it's done, it's done. In your physicalness, you are so insignificant to its doneness.
Mm,
Like when we ask, it is given. Our higher self receives that positive request, focuses on it. Think about it. Our higher self has no resistance because our higher self knows you can be, do, or have anything you want. When I ask for something, whether I'm conscious of it or not, my inner being receives that request, focuses on it. So law of attraction is not only responding to me, like Will Wheaton,
mm,
and me saying, oh, there's no, guys on here on the dating apps that are, that's into me and I'm into him. Um, is responding, law of attraction responding to my higher self as well, who has there's no resistance. So
mm,
it's done. It's energetically, it's complete.
yeah.
All I need to do is soften my resistance or never think about it again. As long as I have no resistance to it, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Period. At some point in my life, I will experience whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean that's the other. Yeah, there's a lot there that sparked a lot of things in me. I think that was another one of the most important things I learned from Abraham early on was because the secret talks about this 3-step process that is pretty. They're not the only ones to come up with that. The ask, believe, receive.
Oh, I have some new ones that I really
That's
love.
it sounds very logical, right? It's like
Yeah,
you
I
figure out what
love
you
that
want.
one. For the longest time, I loved it. Ask, believe,
Yeah.
receive.
It's like figure out what you want and then go get into a place where you really, really believe it really strongly, and then it'll come to you. And I think what Abraham explained really well in the workshops I was listening to when I first was exposed to her was that like it's kind of not like that. Like that's helpful for you, fine. But really, the way it works energetically, like behind the scenes, what the universe is really doing is the moment you identify a desire, there's like you've kind of done the ask automatically. Like you don't have to be like, oh, my dream car that I see now. Okay, I got to go home and make sure I've like identified that that's my dream car.
I
Like
know.
you seeing the dream car is
Yeah,
like all
yeah,
that's necessary. She has that great phrase where she says the rockets of desire are launched
yeah. I
there.
like that one too.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the ask, but it's not like an ask is misleading because it's like oh I
It's a
have to
re
go ask.
it's a
Um,
request
yeah,
and it's been granted. Yeah.
and the receiving is also going to kind of happen with like you don't really have a role in the receiving either.
Yeah,
It's
we
really the
do.
well, but again, this is all semantics and how you talk and think about it, but it's really the believe, which for me is allow, that facilitates the receiving. In other words, if I'm
Right.
going to try to go receive, that will not work, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's really that believe, which is really like it's the allowing of just like
And if we think about it, practicing believing is so much easier than going out and trying to figure out how I
yeah,
can make this
how
happen.
how to how what's the best way to ask, what's the best way to receive. Yeah, that's like a
Or
wasted effort.
yeah, or how am I going to make how? Because I've talked about this a lot on the podcast about my thing was always like, well, how? Well, how? And now that is starting to disappear. And
Yeah,
now I've coming into I've created this new one, BEE, believe, expect, experience.
yeah, that's a way more accurate. Yeah.
I love that one. And then the one I made up this past week was EFF, ease, faith, flow.
Mm.
Ease, faith, flow. Like that just, even just saying it makes me go, "Ah," like my shoulders come down a little bit.
Well, especially the first and third of those, ease and flow. Like again, I'm just constantly highly critical of American culture right now on the show, but like because whenever you talk about, um, I need to go get a new job, or I'm single and I want to find a new partner, or my car's broken down, I need to find a new one. Like our culture is just like, oh, that's a hard situation. You're
Or
gonna have to
how?
do
Or
some
how are
work.
you going to make that happen?
Yeah,
What are you doing,
yeah.
Stephanie? How are you going to do that?
And again, what
I'm
behind
going to
the how is
go
like the how
sprinkle
is
my
like
feet in the water.
what is the work you are going to do all on your own
Yeah,
to make that happen. And what I love about ease and flow is it gets you to where what's really going on, which is this is not the best way to manifest things is not to like go work at it. It's
yeah,
to allow it. Not, as we always say, it doesn't mean there are no action steps involved, but we have it backwards. Like we think like, oh, I got to go home and think really hard and come up with action steps that I got to do to make it happen, and then I'll go do those action steps. And it's like,
yeah,
no, what really the best thing to do is meditate, ask your higher self if you need to do diddly squat at all, or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or do you just need to go to the beach and feel good, because that.
Or for me, getting into that better feeling place, then if I'm feeling good, appreciating, looking at things I like, whatever, taking good care of myself, whatever it may be, that's helping me feel better. Then I'll have a thought. Like this happened a couple weeks ago. I take nibbles around the neighborhood for like 3 or 4 walks a day.
Nibbles is your dog for new listeners watching.
Yes, my grand dog, who's now I'm his loving attendant. And so I had this inspired thought to go in a different direction. And it was like, the thought was really quick and it was a flash of, if you go this way, you'll see the train. And then, so I was like, okay. And I started walking in a different direction. And then I saw a house for sale down the street and around the corner. And I thought, oh, I want to see that house. Let me go take a look at that house. And as I get to that house, I'm kind of looking at it and I look to my right and the train comes by. It's literally like a second and a half and I catch it go by. And I bask in it. I'm super happy. It makes my little girl happy. I'm like, oh my God, there's a train. I saw it all. And then I thought, oh yeah, remember we had that thought. Well, if you go this way, you'll see the train. And then as I was walking, I wasn't even thinking about it. And then I saw this house that I'm like, oh, I want to go see this house. And because I went to go look at the house that was for sale, I was in the perfect position to see
Mm,
the train go by. And it's not even 2 seconds.
mm,
And so I can miss it like that fast.
yeah.
So things like that. I don't know if any of our listeners, I'm sure you have, Colin, where you're in that better feeling place, and then all of a sudden you'll get like a download of a thought that just kind of comes in. You'll get an inspiration to do something, or, oh, this sounds good right now. Let me do this, whatever it may be. And I feel like that's when I'm in that receptive mode because I'm feeling good and I can receive. It's not that it's not always there, because it is always there. It's like, oh, am I in the receptive mode? Am I an open channel to receive it? Because if I got all this clutter going on and I'm upset and I'm trying to make things happen, or oh, I'm late, or I'm being hard on my whatever, like that stuff is there. Like all these wonderful messages are coming in, but I am blocked. It's bouncing right off me. So
Yeah.
I'm not receptive at all. I'm like pushing things away with all that negativity and stress and worry and bleh.
Unnecessary.
Yes.
All right. Well, great discussion. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today, whether you're listening to the audio version or watching us on YouTube. We appreciate you. Remember, at this time in November of 2023, we are posting a brand new episode for you every single Monday morning. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast. And now you can support us on Patreon if you would like to help support the podcast financially. We have the link down in the doodly doo along with our other links, and you can go and become a monthly subscriber to our Patreon and help support Co-Creation Station. We wish you a happy and abundant week and a happy holidays to those of you celebrating. And we'll see you again next week on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.